Hi, I'm Gianluca Fiorelli. Welcome back to the third session. Today we are going to have a guest. Our guest is from the north of Spain, from the beautiful city of Santander. He is a very well-known SEO here in Spain and he started to explore and communicate also in English, especially thanks to bilingual Substack. Super interesting one that I really suggest you to subscribe to. He is a deep technical SEO with strong knowledge in everything JavaScript, in everything development, in everything web performance, core web vital, all these kind of things that are tends to be tricky, but are substantially the infrastructure of well functioning website. And as many of us in the last month, he started to specialize and go deeper in a very great way into everything agentic. He is the CEO of his own agency, Big Momo, with clients in Spain, in France, in Belgium, and he's a good friend of mine. This person is Alfonso Moure. Hey, Alfonso, how are you doing?
Hi, Gianluca. It's nice to see you again. How are you doing?
Oh, how things are going there in Santander.
Well, it's going good. We are barely starting with the summer, so it's starting to get a little warm. But because we are in the north of Spain, it's well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what about SEO? How is SEO treating you lately?
Okay. No, good. Yeah, it's going well. Yeah. No, I was going to ask, what do you mean with if it's going well? Because it depends on a lot of things, I guess. But I think mostly well. Yeah. Last month has been a little harsh for us because of the late updates in May
Okay,
and
yeah,
start of
core
June.
update.
But yeah, not bad, I guess.
And what about all the friends? How all these friendliness of SEO took you, of artificial intelligence in SEO? That is now seems so normal, this new normal, but actually is, we think, going back with the memories just 18 months ago, everything started.
Yeah.
And how much this kind of change was something that you were feeling was going to come, or something that took you somehow unguarded without, oh, what is this thing? How these things are changing so fast and
Yeah.
so radically somehow.
Yeah, I think it took us everybody unguarded. I don't care what anybody says about that. It was a surprise, not how it got to us, but how Google is trying to put it in our lives. I'm going to go deeper on that. I think that as a technical role that like the one I used to work on, it's not a surprise that AI has entered our lives so strongly. But I think it's interesting to see how Google is trying to put AI in the center of the search engine, even if we really knew that Google was very good in AI. That's not a surprise for any of us. But in 2023, when ChatGPT got to the spotlight, we all thought that it was going to change a lot of things, but maybe we were too busy thinking about how to generate content or help us in our investigations, our research, our work. And even if we knew that Google was the leadership on AI, I think at least me, I didn't stop to think about how Google was going to put it there. I know it sounds stupid because I've been working on SEO for such a long time. I think I should have thought about it, but I didn't. So yeah, I think it's
Yes,
yeah.
yes, because I mean, Google is substantially the inventor of Word to Vec, which is at the base of everything we are working and optimizing
Yeah.
right now. And it was using already AI in the backstage
Yes.
for the classic search. And yes, me too. I think just a few seconds of consideration. I think that if it wasn't for ChatGPT, maybe Google would have started to introduce AI inside the
Yeah.
classic search, but not thinking in a chat box. I think
Oh,
that
yeah,
the chat box was
absolutely.
something that it was forced to introduce because he saw how ChatGPT with a chat box was gaining market share and popularity. And especially not really only the factor, the competitor, but also how people were reacting to that kind of product. So he says,
Yeah.
okay, we need to put it too.
Yeah, I think the same. I think Google was pushed to go further into the chat box idea. I think the same like you. I don't know if they would have up to that option, at least when they started to roll it out. Maybe I think when Google finally deployed the voice search services, I think that's where Google was really trying to put AI at the center of search. But it didn't work, like we
As,
well know
as
that.
we all know.
Yeah, yes, we all know. But yeah, I think that's a very interesting point. I think that maybe we would be on a different path right now. Yeah,
Yeah, yes.
I
Maybe
think.
something similar. I don't know if you ever tested it. Similar to the web guide, which is still just
Yeah,
a lab test, and probably with my sadness, big sadness, will probably be sunsetted sooner or later because it's that kind of use of AI that for me is perfect, but
yeah,
not the one
me
that
too.
is winning clear. And now the model is going to be AI mode, and with a classic search as using a metaphor, as when the CD for music came out, and then the streaming, that is the new search. But still, people were and still are buying classic long playing disc. So I think that classic search is going to have that kind of future.
Yeah.
For the nostalgic, the one that wants something between brackets and many brackets, analogic search, and still want to use a classic search with the blue links.
Yes,
But
I guess it's like they need to push into the mainstream, right? Because not everybody is used to use an AI chat box to look for things. Maybe to just exchange ideas with an AI. That's enough for a lot of people. But yeah, I think the search box with the SERP is going to stay there for a long time. And yeah, maybe AI mode is going to be the standard, but not right now. And I think like you, that web guide sounded really good to me. But yeah, it's not the time. Yeah.
and as a one, you always like to create your own tools. Also using both third-party tools like commercial tools present in the market, but also from using their API and combining all the information, creating your own tools for as many of us we are doing to have better vision of what is happening on the website of your own website and website of a client. The evolution of AI is obviously from one side, let's say in the in the front end is what we are want to optimize for. But in the back end, we know with Cursor, with Cloud Code, with Codex, with anti-gravity, with all the opportunity of partially creating, I don't want to use the word vibe code because vibe coding somehow has assumed also a negative
Yeah. It's a
meaning.
dangerous
But
word.
then let's say,
Yeah.
but using the force of AI for creating faster and maybe better the tools that you were already
Yeah.
creating, so to make them evolve, how much are you using this kind of made up just for you unique tools?
Like a lot. I think that I'm currently accept a couple of SaaS solutions to extract information. I'm mainly using my own tools because I think that when you are using standard tools, you are generalizing by design. So you are just using something that is on the standard line. And when you try to answer really trick questions, or at least questions that you are the only one that is going to answer them, it's insufficient to use standard tools. So you need to go a little further. I'm not trying to say that I don't pay for subscriptions or that I'm anti-SaaS. But I think if you want to go a little further and to do a little more when compared with your competitors, and that's what a good SEO needs to do to do his job. Yeah, you need to go a little further to push that line.
Yes, I totally agree, because one of the classic problem was somehow the no standardization of the SEO terminology, for instance.
Yeah,
So one
yeah,
one
it's
tool
important.
was calling one thing in one way, one other tool was calling the same thing in another way. I'm
Yeah,
thinking in my specific case, because I'm really working SERPs analysis. So really understanding how SERPs change during time because of seasonality, change of search intent, and so on and so on and so on. A very silly problem that I had was that maybe I was using different tools for having a better vision through tools. And these tools were calling the search feature all in this different. So I needed to, it was really complicated, even if I was using then the API of this tool to harmonize the data together. So I was needing to create a sort of vocabulary, a sort of a Rosetta Stone for saying, okay, this means this for these tools, etc., 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 and so on. And actually, they use facility, because I'm, on the contrary of you, I'm not coming from development, computer science kind of background. I'm coming from more, let's call it, content side background. The help of AI was that this kind of tool that for me were quite complicated. They took me very long time to create. Now, not that they're coming like this, but still I'm saving time. I'm happy to
yeah.
spend 1 week to make it exactly as I want, even if I'm using AI, because I know that after all the time that I was spending for reconciliating the data is going to disappear, is going to be saved.
I think it's a very sweet moment for people that have development skills, because especially if they work on digital marketing in this case, because like I said before, you can go a little further. Like you said, something that maybe in the past it took you like 2 months to build. If you know where you are going, you can do that in 2 hours, maybe four. For example, I work a lot with log files from servers, and I always found that the tools I was using were very focused on KPIs instead of real metrics, or or they were very constrained. I think that's the word, because you can't query exactly what you are looking for. So as soon as I was able to do that by myself without investing a lot of time, it was life changing. I think for me and for my clients, it's a very sweet moment. And also, if you don't have that development background, that technical background from the start, I think it's also it's maybe I don't like to say that you don't need to know some stuff, some technical aspects of a project, but I think you can, like you said, you can build your own tools from the scratch and really solve very difficult problems with them. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, yes.
good moment to do
In
that.
this case, I think that the most important thing, obviously having, 20 years of SEO taught
Yeah.
me few things about
No, no.
technical stuff. So, but as always in any kind of problem, not just in SEO, but I think it's common in every kind of work. What important thing is always having very clear what do you want,
Yeah,
and
that's a
from
real
there,
question.
yes,
Yeah,
what do you want? What do you want to achieve with this tool? And then be very stubborn, especially
yeah,
if you are co-creating with an AI, that tool, to say, no, I want this, because why are you doing this, that, thing, that,
yeah,
for instance? So be very clear in what you want, because if not, you start obtaining and going in sideways and obtaining things that maybe are interesting, but not exactly what you
yeah,
wanted.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
that's it.
you were talking, okay, you are citing logs. And let's do a sort of game. For analyzing logs in the past 2 years, what kind of history or story of a change of a web are you seeing from analyzing, for instance,
Ooh.
the logs one year ago? and the logs now?
That's a very good question, actually, because I think since last summer, a year, I always forget that we are in June, sorry, it's changed a lot because you are seeing a lot more of diversity of agents working on request, not only on server logs, but also on CDNs like Cloudflare. You can see very different agents working on sites. And depending on the type of content you are publishing on the web, you can see different species. It's like a zoology class of the internet. For example, places where you are publishing contents that are more aligned with transactional projects, for example, you can always see Google, of course, Microsoft ones. OpenAI, you can see they're flying around. Claude or Anthropic bots are always present. It doesn't mind the type of content, but you can see a myriad of other bots and agents with very strange names. I have to say, I know this is not very scientific, but different random names. And when you look for them, you could just go to Google and check the user agent. And you can see small projects of people developing their own tools, their own SaaS services. And I think that's very funny. I think it's like everybody's trying to build new things, and you can see how they spread through the internet depending on the contents you're deploying. So yeah, that's very interesting to me, I think. Yeah, and you are seeing that Google is not. You can really see that Google is trying to optimize how it's working the web, reducing the amount of requests they need to check what you are publishing, and all the other agents or
And
biofauna
maybe
or
this can
whatever.
also
Yeah,
explain why one of the most common and growing complaints many people have. Just saw it in a group of Spanish too yesterday. It was how much time is Google indexing things, whether you're publishing or creating or updating. And I think that this is you are somehow explain this new behavior of Google. I mean, crawling the web is expensive.
extremely
And
expensive.
now with AI and with query fan out, for instance, is even more
Yeah,
expensive. And indexing things, especially when things are become passages,
yeah,
what everybody calls as chunk, but they are passages, and it's even more. So obviously, then Google is also creating super sophisticated algorithm for compressing the information crawl and so on, so to not have to substantially spend all the earnings of a year in server. And another question that I have, usually a technical SEO always leaves somehow on the edge between the creative part of the work around a brand as around for its website and how it proposed and want to this website as an expression of the brand itself outside in the wild and the technical, the developer and so on. I imagine that obviously we all know we are as SEO started to use a lot AI for creating their own tools. Surely, and even more, developers are using AI to develop their own tools. So, how much governance is becoming critical for having a website working correctly? I mean, governance and making a conciliation between the things you are doing as an SEO and the things developers are doing for their work using AI, how to make these conciliate together. Because I mean, it was already difficult before without AI.
well, I think that we need to remember that technical people are optimizing for performance, I guess, from a systems point of view. And we SEOs, if we are doing what we should do, we're optimizing for another type of performance, in this case, a business performance. So I think now with the AI tools that we are using, especially developers are getting more productive.
Mhm.
So their hourly work is getting cheaper from the business point of view because you can do more, much more with that time. And I think that we SEOs, we've always been not very good, to be polite, working with them, with developers. I think it's a good time to reconcile, like you said before, and to focus more on being more strategic when building our sprints, our backlog of tasks for the development team, and I think that because of that, especially developers and technical people are going to receive more pressure from above to move quicker. So they are going to need from us to be more specific about what we need and to really justify what we are asking for and why. And the why, it's the important part because we are not used to use that when speaking with the development team. We use that kind of language when we are talking with business, with the CMO, with the product manager, but not with developers. And I think that that is going to change. And I also think that this is a theory of mine, okay, that developers role is going to mix somehow with the product manager role, maybe, I don't know. So it's going to get more tricky to justify what we need to do on a technical project. So yeah, I think we will need to be more specific, like I said before. It's going to be even more difficult to do our job, but I think in a good way. We need to push on that.
Yes, surely we shouldn't. It was not safe doing it before, but even less now. Not everything must be a high priority.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Well, if
everything
you
is
have
high
five
priority,
high
nothing is high
priorities,
priority. Usually
yeah,
this
that's what,
is what
yeah.
developers go crazy with. And I think that you were really right in saying justifying with why. So translating the business why into something that resonates in why our business translates to what you have to do. So for instance, I'm just making an example. Let's say that we must, in a website, we want to start going very deep with UC, Universal Commerce Protocol.
Yeah.
So, okay, you as an SEO, you can explain how
Yeah.
to do it, etc., etc., etc. But then it's the developer itself, the
Yeah.
development team that must. So if you explain it, okay, we must do this because we must maintain this kind of information, etc., 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 in order to expand the possibility of growing for the business. But it can be a way to explain them why. So for this, we must really super precise, not really testing how it works and not seeing that nothing is broken because let's say maybe in the past, for instance, when we were talking about JavaScript, we can concede maybe some few mistakes into the JavaScript because they weren't breaking the web. I mean, depending on where the JavaScript was. Because if it was, for instance, in the head, Google was actually stopping to fetch the page. But normally it wasn't such a huge critical priority. But now, for
Yeah.
instance, doing all the
Yes, please.
triage, all the
Testing.
testing
Yeah.
before shipping live the final work is is giving them that responsibility that,
Yes, indeed.
that can make them feel that they are not just working class, let's say, but they are in the same main room where decision can be
Well,
taken.
that's a very key, very important aspect of what we have to change. It seems that we always see technical teams like some kind of the enemy, and they are not the enemy. They are building the scaffolding to support everything we do on the internet. We SEOs and also marketing people. So yeah, that's important. And also, I think we should care about how we communicate with them and about what we are asking them to do. Yes, I think it's going to be key to do that properly. I think it was. I don't know if you know Andy Group. I don't know even if
Yes.
I'm pronouncing that the Intel CEO. I know I'm not going to properly quote him, but something similar to how well we communicate is determined not by how well we say something or how well we explain something, maybe on a ticket in the case of an SEO professional, but by how well we are understood by the receiver. So yeah, I think it's something very important that we always forget, we SEOs, especially. Yeah.
Yes, and I can say that, especially because I work a lot on the content side too, with the copywriters. Sometimes this is also a kind of mistake that is done with copywriters. Somehow just giving them to a copywriter something like, okay, you have to do this. but not really explaining why. And when we have all this kind of content that was loved even before the existing of AI-generated content. Talking about when we were organizing this episode of YouTube, now, as many others, I'm really putting my head into the agentic search. Is it just me, or Google really doubled down in everything agentic in these very last 4 or 5 weeks? I mean, it never really talked about agentic until, let's say, it was something that is going to come. But then, we start saying, okay, in 2027, we are going to be, everything is going to be agentic. Said the CEO of Google. Then they started with, okay, again, come first ChatGPT with ACP, and then comes immediately Google with UCP. And UCP is ACP is substantially a platform thing because it works just for ChatGPT, and UCP is substantially universal. Okay, bye-bye ChatGPT. And then it comes with Web MCP. And then now with always sort of ODK, I think is the correct things that very recently announced. So to create substantially a wiki about everything of a website just for the agent with MD files, the famous MD files. And then the search team is saying, we don't use nnm.txt for search, but the developer team saying, for agentic search, and especially for checking out how to do where are things for the agents, you may use the nnm.txt. Therefore, it's a good thing to have eventually. And then it came out so many things. And then you notice all these frenzies, how Google is accelerating to really doubling down with agentic search.
Yeah, I think that they are really pushing forward. I don't know how fast they are going to do that. I guess maybe a couple of months ago, maybe a couple of months before Google I/O, I was thinking about that because UCP, like you said before. And yeah, it seems like Google is trying to do that, but I guess there's a technical depth on the internet that needs to be paid before doing that. And maybe LM.txt is a way to do that. I don't know, for example, for content websites. But it's going to be very tricky for everybody to move forward with that agentic view of the internet. I think it's very good news for the heavy users of the internet, like I am. I think it's going to be much easier for people like me and you and other people that are always working on the internet to move around, to do things, not to rely on that terrible website that you need to operate with, like, I don't know, Renfe. If you are based in Spain, we are always making jokes about our main train provider here in Spain. It really sucks. Yeah. Yes, because we are moving in that direction. Maybe in the future we are going to be able to interact with services without a web. And that's a huge change for everybody. It's a very important change for how we interact with internet and also the world, of course. But yeah, like I said before, we have a very big technical depth in this case to be able to do that. And on that new scenario, because the one that is going to make the purchase is an agent, that's a machine. It's not a person. Like you said before, I've been trying to think about how that is going to impact everybody, not only on the technical part or technical aspects of the internet, but also in the human part. Because when we are offering a service or a product and we try to offer that from a website, we usually try to rely on psychological aspects of how we offer that service. For example, what's the word in English? Scarcity, or yeah, the how many products we
So,
have
for
in
instance,
stock,
in the
or
classic trick of
yeah,
booking.com that is a
you have
just
5 minutes to
room
buy
is
that.
this is people are watching this room
Yeah,
in this moment, and
yeah,
I need to reserve it.
yes, I need to buy this. Yeah, or even FOMO. Okay, but an
Oh yes,
agent is not going to be affected by that. they are going to be more.
No, in fact,
Yeah,
but there is also another thing that is apart the human, how it's going to change, how fast it's going to change. Because if we are thinking, because sometimes I believe that we live in a big bubble. And so we tend to think that people are going to do the same things that we can do. But I
yeah,
discovered myself that even if I'm in this bubble, there are things that I don't want to do as they want me to push to do. But I think into, let's say, non-technical people, not so heavy.
yeah.
And
Not
I'm
heavy
not
users.
thinking
Yeah,
of digital, people in Generation Z or
yeah.
even, that all digital. But
Digital
let's say,
natives. Yeah,
yeah. So I think if people took so much time to understand, to trust e-commerce, for instance, to buy
oh yeah,
something online, and ultimately it was COVID that
yeah,
made e-commerce really boom also as something that even my mom now can buy without problem in an e-commerce website. I mean, okay, that there are few models. I think that the real model that maybe we can use as a precursor is our marketplace like Amazon, in the sense, okay, we go on Amazon on the app. Sure, we are the ones buying or something like this, but we are used to stay on a platform that is selling
yeah,
every kind of brand. So
yeah,
maybe in this sense, for instance, Google presenting you products is going to be look like Amazon. So people, which is something that he wasn't able to do with shopping for me.
yeah,
But now that it's possible to say, okay, I saw this product, I buy it, or tell me more about this product. And then there are problems that I see on the business side. Because, for instance, one of the things classic in e-commerce is if you buy this before you buy this, but it's the same things that every hardline is doing, or even Redfin, which is not working well, to sell you to do upselling. Where is the upselling? In at least now it's not preview upselling
yeah.
in the e-commerce, agentic e-commerce. It's just buying directly one product.
Yeah, and also you don't have the same effect that you have when a customer is scrolling through a list of products. So not only upselling, but also giving new ideas. Maybe the customer is looking for a t-shirt, one, and he or she goes out with 5 different t-shirts. So yeah, I don't know how Google in this case is going to fix that. I guess that big e-commerce are going to try to push them to work in a different way. And maybe the UCP and how it integrates with AI mode currently is just a test. That maybe yeah, they are just trying to test how people is reacting to that kind of interface and how they are interacting with it. And maybe yeah, I guess in the future we are going to see something similar to the fan out feature when you are using AI mode or AI overviews. Maybe something similar to that, more in the e-commerce way of things. I don't know.
Okay,
This
yes.
is
So
yeah,
associating, or usually to these products are associated Visa.
yeah, maybe something like that. I don't know. I don't really know.
That could be. Yeah. But you were also saying before, now sending things is from the classic clerk in a physical shop
Yeah,
to the copy of a website is usually based on persuasion, trying to
yeah,
sell you something, persuading you with all the things that you were saying. It's a status thing, it's a neither thing, it's an healthy thing. Obviously, these are things that may or may not interest to an agent.
yeah,
So I wonder how this kind of commercial language is going to be translated to a commerce. Because until now, for instance, a commerce, okay, is trying to relay, and that's why there are so many this such use of forums, for instance, and to compensate a claim of a product with what people say about the product.
yeah,
But there is no gray zone. So there is no why you should buy this product according to us, etc., etc.
yeah,
It's something that is going to be missed, the art of selling things and to convince, even if I'm, because it is, if not, it's like when you are, for instance, in another industry, travel, and you see the list in hotel ads, and you
yeah,
see if it was of them, I mean, they are identical, the, the hotel snippet. The only things that maybe can convince you to go for one hotel or the other is going
yeah.
to be price. So I wonder, is going to be the price the biggest ranking factor in this case?
I don't think so. I think that agents are going to also take it. I was going to say keep in mind, but what mind? Maybe I don't know.
Well, it
Yeah,
could be
but yeah,
the
yeah,
effect of the memory, personalized memory. Yes.
yeah. I think that was discriminatory. But yeah, I think that I don't know. I think that maybe price is going to be a key aspect of that, of how the agent is going to choose between 2, 3 options, but also how the place that is offering that product also represents the technical specifications of a product, for example, the return policies of that e-commerce, the availability of products, and also something that is very important nowadays. Well, it was for a long time, but it's now on the spotlight. It's the brand value and the brand message of the provider. So I think that that is going to be another thing to do, maybe to put more effort on how we communicate our brand's values related with the product. In that sense, maybe I was thinking that maybe marketplaces are going to have a harder time to adapt to this scenario because they are offering different brands, and now with that in mind, it's going to be trickier to use your brand to compete with other providers. But also if they focus on the quality of the information they are providing about the product, on how well they are showing the world the return policies and availability of their products and other aspects of their service, maybe they are going to be able to compete
Yeah, substantially
even better than
what
with price.
merchant
Yeah,
is already
yeah,
asking. If you
yeah.
want to be considered a top shopper, you must have all these kind of things.
But you have to show them in the front end and
Yeah,
very
yeah,
close
yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah,
product,
yes.
not, yeah,
But merchant is pretending them to be in the front end.
yeah,
I mean, if you have the return policy, you must have a page specific for the return policy that is eventually linked by any product page and declare in the product schema. So, and what I see of Agentic, which and maybe this is the ODK, I still haven't really dig into ODK. So this creation of everything sort of wiki knowledge base for agents on your website. I think that that is a good example of how things are going to be in the sense that you must maintain a strict, it seems contradictory because you can be everything creative. Just think I say, citing a Spanish brand, maybe not the best website, but very well-known Spanish brand. That, let's say, all the products, all put there with their own brand vision, brand image, branding of everything, huge photo, small description, almost no description, blah, blah, blah. And then what do you see in the front end, which is so sharp and cool behind is going to need an even deeper and stronger technical base because it's not just how it works in the terms of poor code and development, but also all the scaffolding of data that must be fed to the agents.
yeah, yeah. I think that's very important also. Yeah, yeah. I also think that in the technical part of the problem, like you said before, also web performance is going to be a very important aspect of how we serve that information. Specifically, I think it's going to be very important the TTFB, the time to first byte. That's the time that the server takes to serve the information to the requester entity. It can be an agent, it can be a browser with a user behind it. And because much of the agents and bots that are crawling the internet, they are not able to use JavaScript. Google is able to do that, not always, but and not for all the bots used by Google, but Googlebot, the one we are concerned about for organic search, it can execute JavaScript. So, but the others are not able to do so. Executing JavaScript is very expensive. So for things like showing a user a product, for example, clothes, like you said before, with the Sarah example, you will need to show that information directly in the first response given by the server without using JavaScript. And a lot of websites are nowadays relying on solutions that use JavaScript to serve that content because it's easier for them, specifically when they are when they need to update stocks in real time, for example, or when they need to show you information, like we said before, scarcity indicators of the product. They need JavaScript to do that, but they can't interact with an agent relying on that type of technology. So from the technical point of view, we are going to lose a lot of tools to work to sell to our users, and agents working from a search result page or working from AI mode or from Google Spark, like they presented in Google I/O. It's going to be very difficult. And like you said before, technical aspects of SEO are going to be much more important with this movement to an agentic web. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I can have an anecdote related to a client of mine in the travel space where they're really, really visible everywhere, also in AI search. But we are working and starting considering very, very strongly one problem because they have a wonderful feature, dynamic feature on the website, which are dynamic, all based on JavaScript, and they are the ones presenting substantially the mini excerpt about a top resort with the price starting from, etc. And because the price is changing daily, they cannot make it immediately server side. And that's going to be problematic because what we are seeing for UCP, from what I know, is going to be soon translated also to this kind of industry like travel, lodging, and everything like this, because they are so, I mean, after e-commerce and shopping, merchant, everything travel is a huge market for Google, already for travelgoogle.com, and also for the hotels, and so on and so on and so on. And so this is going to be a huge problem. Apart that, there are also still very, very small niche, for instance, in Italy, clients that still are not really wanting to show the price, which is crazy still. Because I mean, they don't want, because if not, people are going to compare it. Some sort of web 1.0 remnants that are still there sometimes that you can find. Okay. But exactly, websites that are really strong, really powerful brand are going to have these kind of issues that on the other kind, smaller brand, maybe more tech-aware brands can do and put a feet before them, and they're starting occupying, and just because they are visible are going to take place.
I think that's a very interesting point of view, but I think that maybe Google is not going to have an incentive to let those small businesses to do that, I guess,
Well, I
because, well,
mean, I was
Google
saying
Friends
no
are,
small businesses,
yeah.
but I was saying new brands coming
Oh,
out.
okay. Yeah, I understand. Okay, yeah.
From, let's say, because for instance, how I would be like, I need to talk with someone in Booking or hotels.com or this kind of
Yeah,
website, how we are planning to
yeah,
do this.
yes.
Also for obviously a working interest. But let's talk about returning to Gentic. What is the things that is you are finding more interesting of all the things that you are touching now, very looking at agentic search? What are the things that you say, why people are not talking about this? Why people are not paying attention to this? You think, because I think this is important.
Oh, well, I usually say that I'm a little concerned about maybe not right now, maybe not next year, but maybe the next one. Why are you going to need a front end to do things? If agents are going to interact directly with other agents and other machines, maybe the ambiguity of human language is going to be on the way. So why do we care about websites? Well, I'm going to rephrase this. Are we going to still be concerned about front end in the future? And I think that we need to think about that, not only because of our profession, but from a technical point of view also, but because maybe Google is trying to go in that direction. What is going to happen with our technical profiles when Google tries to keep the user on the search results page or even inside AI mode and only interact with your website using a feed or another agent? Yeah, that's scary.
Yes, and now it's coming to my
But yeah,
mind, but you say something better. We are talking about zero click, but in reality, we should start talking about null
yes, I think
click.
so. Yeah, I think we need to
I
talk
think
about that.
you're right. I think that surely there is one direction we are going to have. But then I also think about the human beings, and I think that the human beings, okay, maybe that there's something in the middle, not the same things we are seeing now with former websites and so on, but maybe not something which is only living somehow in the server where agents are talking and substantially everything is visible on many different platforms that are going to be some sort of oligarchy of the web where oligopoly of the web where big platforms are going to dispatch everything. I think that maybe there is also a possibility in the middle, which is somehow an evolution of edge, substantially. So, where things are living on the edge and can be dynamically in some sort of way, I don't know, in this sense, my technical knowledge is not so big in this sense, but that can somehow creating snapshot that people, real human, can visit personally. For instance, let's say we are talking a lot about agent and so on, but one classic channel that is never dying, it is even growing more, is newsletter marketing. And that kind of own traffic, where are you going to send them?
Yes, I think that your perspective of having a middle ground, maybe a middle ground solution, it's much better. I think it's a more secure place for our freedom, our autonomy. Yeah, but I also think, I don't know. For example, the other day I was in the gym. Okay, yes, I go to the gym. So something that you should do after the 40s. There was a guy there that was talking with his phone. Okay, and I just out of curiosity or maybe of cotilleo in Spanish, I removed my headphone. I was like, is he talking with someone or I don't know? And he was giving instructions to a development agent. Okay, he was instructing his phone, well, through his phone to an agent, maybe at his home, that is, it was programming for him. So yeah, it's a developer, it's a heavy user of the internet and artificial intelligence, but he doesn't need anymore a computer to do his job.
Probably it
Maybe
was
for
using that
some
that that
aspects of
that,
it,
that the
but
function of Claude that Claude pushed a few months ago, which is the possibility to use with voice Cloud code and synchronize it mobile app with desktop app, probably.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
I don't
very
know.
heavy. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah, a little
avant-garde.
terrifying maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Let's see. I think we are going to see very different interfaces in the coming
yeah,
months
yeah, yeah,
and ways
yeah.
to use them. So yeah, let's see.
Maybe we
I
are
don't know.
going to be really entering in the cyberpunk era,
Oh, interesting.
with
Real Player
implants or
One all the
something
way
like
in.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, Alfonso, 1 hour really run fast. Maybe too fast. I have still many things I would like to talk with you, but maybe let's do a promise. Maybe for a future time, next time, we can dig and say, oh, that things that we were saying before June 2026, nothing
Yeah.
happened, or even more happened. But to conclude you, to conclude this conversation, how would you sell your hometown Santander?
Oh, well, it's a good place to enjoy a sunny summer, kind of sunny summer, without the high temperatures of the south of Spain. So yeah, it's a good place to be, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's a beautiful city. And obviously, you were living before in a huge big city.
Yeah, I was living
Madrid,
in Madrid.
and going back home is this is very Mediterranean, recovering the roots,
Yeah. Yes, it's
and
very Mediterranean. Yeah.
but also it's the kind of life which
Yeah.
is different
Yeah.
and less
I
stress.
guess, yeah. Yeah. I guess the quality of life is very high from that point of view. So yeah, I think it's a good place to be right now. Yeah. Outside the
And so
frantic
if
big
yes,
city.
so
Yeah.
if you're listening to us and want to visit Spain and want to discover a new place, and if you're there, maybe you can contact Alfonso. Say, hey, Alfonso, I'm here. Have a beer
Yeah.
together and talk about Agentic and search and so on. You're welcome.
Please
You're
do.
really recommended to visit Santander. Thank you,
Yeah.
Alfonso. It was a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Gianluca.
You're
See you
welcome.
soon.
And thank you to everybody. And remember, subscribe to the channel to Research Session, which your subscription will help us grow. And remember to give it a like to this episode and to subscribe to the channel so to be notified for new episodes when they are coming out. Thank you and bye bye.